The green room hums with a kind of silence only political events can conjure. Filtered, quietly electric. A production assistant adjusts a lavalier mic on a clipboard. Another whispers into a headset. The countdown to the live broadcast has begun, and in the corner of the room, two very different energies occupy the same space. Kash Patel enters first, flanked by two staffers who walk like they've done this too many times. He's not reading prep notes. He doesn't need to. His confidence fills the room like cologne. Thick, pungent, impossible to ignore. His tailored suit clings to him like entitlement, and his smile is the kind that never reaches the eyes. He scans the room like he owns it until his gaze lands on her. Karoline Leavitt sits quietly on a minimalist gray chair. No entourage, no noise, just a single folder resting on her lap. She doesn't look up immediately. She's studying something. A line of policy data. A quote. Or maybe it's nothing at all, just the act of stillness as armor. When she finally raises her eyes, they meet his. No smile, just a glance. Cold, calculated. She knows. This game, Kash breaks the eye contact first, smirking slightly as he turns to greet a producer. "Let's keep it light," he says, loud enough for everyone to hear. It's a youth summit, not a tribunal. Karoline doesn't respond. A senior producer leans into a whisper beside the moderator. There's a change in the segment order. Last-minute adjustments. Patel will speak first. Of course he will. Small ripple moves through the crew. Karoline notices. She doesn't blink. Patel glances at the cue cards, scoffs, and mutters to his staffer, "Watch me clean this up in the first 5 minutes." His tone is cavalier, half joke, half threat. Karoline adjusts the folder on her lap. Her fingers move slowly, deliberately. Inside it, notes are marked, pages tagged, quotes circled. But there's something else buried in there, something not meant for opening statements. Something heavier. Something timed. She's not nervous. She's patient, and that's what unsettles him as they're called to the stage. He strides forward. First, his back straight, smile ready. She walks 3 paces behind, silent, still holding the folder. The green room fades behind them, but the glare between them remains. The battle hasn't begun, but it will, and she came to win it differently. Before we continue this political showdown, subscribe to the channel and comment your location below. Where in the world are you watching this moment unfold? The lights go hot. The crowd hushes. A countdown echoes in the earpieces of every crew member on set. 3, 2. And with a smooth cut to live, the moderator smiles into the camera, polished and polite. Tonight, we're joined by 2 voices from the rising generation of American politics. The introduction is neutral. Too neutral. The kind meant to preserve television harmony, not truth. Kash Patel leans forward with his signature half smile, already positioning his body toward the camera like a seasoned guest. Karoline Leavitt sits upright, hands folded, watching, waiting. The moderator opens soft something about economic vision for the next decade. Patel takes the floor with ease. He's fluid, articulate, and just smug enough to draw chuckles from. The audience, he speaks in sweeping metaphors, warning against the dangers of rookie idealism and trusting leadership to enthusiasm rather than experience. He never says her name, but every word is pointed at Karoline. She's well-spoken. He says at one point, glancing sideways, but there's a difference between reading numbers and living them. A few people in the crowd laugh. His delivery is rehearsed, media-trained. His smirk, his camera ready. Then it's Karoline's turn. She begins with data-hard numbers on small business grants, youth unemployment, educational reform policy. Her tone is measured, her facts solid. But every 30 seconds, Patel interrupts. A scoff, a hold on, that's not accurate. A theatrical sigh. The moderator tries to steer, but not forcefully. Patel's interruptions are wrapped in charm and framed as clarifications. Each one chips away at her time. Karoline doesn't push back. Not yet. Instead, she calmly restates her point, eyes locked on the audience, not on him. But even then, her voice competes with his gestures. He leans back with exaggerated boredom, taps his pen, chuckles under his breath. This isn't a debate. It's domination dressed as discourse. The audience begins to shift. A few attendees furrow their brows. One woman in the third row tilts her head, noticing the imbalance. The tension is not explosive, it's controlled, orchestrated chaos. Karoline knows this tactic. Let the opponent expend their energy too early. Let them play to the crowd, while the real move waits in silence. She doesn't match his volume. She doesn't mimic his games. She lets it breathe. She lets him overreach. But her grip on the folder tightens just slightly just once before she releases it back to her lap. Patel finishes another polished answer with a smirk, as if daring her to snap. But she doesn't. Not yet. The segment shifts. The moderator glances at her card. Next topic: foreign policy. A subtle nod cues Patel to begin, and he takes the invitation like a man slipping into his favorite suit. He straightens his posture and begins to speak, not to explain policy, but to perform authority. His tone is calm, almost benevolent, like a professor correcting a student. "We're not talking about a classroom hypothetical," he says, gesturing toward Karoline without looking at her. "We're talking about classified intelligence, diplomatic nuance, and the kind of judgment that comes from being in real rooms during real crises." He looks at the crowd, then finally turns to her, and with all due respect, Ms. Leavitt, your experience amounts to press releases, social media storms, and blog-level commentary. That's not foreign policy. That's fan fiction. The audience shifts, some gasp, some chuckle. A few laugh outright. The line was rehearsed, crafted to sting. But Karoline remains still, her face unreadable. Patel presses on, sensing an opening. She once called for the withdrawal of troops from a conflict zone without even knowing we had boots on the ground there, he adds. Imagine that in a war room. Imagine that with real lives at stake. A sarcastic chuckle follows. He expects her to break, to flinch, to fire back in frustration. She doesn't. Instead, she nods, slowly acknowledging the words, but not accepting their weight. Then, with unsettling calm, she leans slightly forward. "Thank you, Mr. Patel," she says. The room quiets. No one expected gratitude. "I appreciate the vivid summary of my shortcomings." Her voice is low, deliberate. "But if I may," she glances at the moderator, "I'd like one uninterrupted minute. Just one." There's a pause. The moderator looks toward the producers, hesitant. Patel chuckles again, arms folded. "By all means," he says. "Let her speak." The moderator nods. "Go ahead, Ms. Leavitt." She adjusts her mic slightly. One hand touches the folder in her lap. The other steadies on the desk, in the stillness before she begins. Something shifts. This is not a rebuttal. It's not even retaliation. It's something else, something calculated, something earned, and though Patel doesn't realize it yet, he just gave her the moment she was waiting for. Karoline takes a breath, but not the kind meant to gather courage. It's the kind one takes to steady a scalpel before the first cut. Her voice, when it comes, is calm, controlled, clean. "Thank you for your concern about my readiness, Mr. Patel," she begins. Her eyes fixed forward, not at him, but at the audience. "Since we're evaluating qualifications, I think the public deserves a more complete picture of yours." There's a flicker in Patel's smile, a brief adjustment in posture. He wasn't expecting this tone. Karoline opens the folder on her lap and lifts a single page, not dramatic, just deliberate. Since 2021, she continues, your private consulting firm has secured over $18 million in defense contracts, most of which were awarded without competitive bidding. Of those contracts, 72% were granted by agencies led by individuals who either donated to your political action committee or shared a former employer with you. The moderator glances toward the producers. Patel shifts in his seat, a faint twitch in his jaw. Karoline doesn't pause. During your tenure as Chief of Staff for the Department of Defense, a number of briefing documents classified and restricted were found referenced in think tank publications days after closed-door discussions. When asked, you said it was coincidence and media speculation, but two of those authors worked directly for your former communications firm. A man in the front row lowers his phone. He's no longer recording, just listening. And in 2020, she adds, her voice flattening, when a junior staffer filed a sexual harassment complaint against one of your top aides, you didn't investigate. You didn't acknowledge it publicly. You told internal HR that the claim was, quote, a distraction from national priorities. The room tightens. The air turns still. Patel leans forward, about to interrupt. She doesn't give him the space. You say, I'm not ready. She says, finally turning toward him. Her voice doesn't rise. It drops quiet, lethal. At least I've never sold my readiness to the highest bidder. The moment fractures. Gasps ripple across the audience. The moderator's mouth opens, but no words come out. A staffer backstage drops a clipboard. One panelist mutters a curse under their breath. Patel blinks twice, his mouth half open, but the rehearsed charm has nowhere to go. He wasn't prepped for this. No one was. Karoline leans back slightly, closes her folder, and folds her hands. She doesn't look smug. She doesn't smile, because this wasn't theater. It was a surgical strike. 1 minute, no wasted words, and no comeback that can fix what just got torn open. If that line hits you like a freight train, drop one word in the comments. Shook. Let's see how many people felt the room turn in that moment. For a full second after Karoline finishes speaking, no one says anything. It's not silences. Suspension. Like the oxygen has been quietly sucked out of the room and no one dares be the first to inhale. Kash Patel leans forward, attempting to keep the posture of control, but it falters. His fingers tap the desk just once, out of rhythm. His jaw tightens, but the smirk doesn't return. It's gone. He clears his throat too close to the mic and laughs. That practiced political laugh that's meant to diffuse tension. Well, he says, voice pitching higher than before. Oh's it. Passionate. He forces a grin. But let's be honest, conspiracy theories play well on Twitter, not in the Situation Room. No laughter comes. He shifts again, this time trying to aim for charm. We all know Ms. Leavitt is. That's creative. She's got a future in writing novels if politics doesn't work out. The moderator flinches slightly, like someone watching a slow car crash. The audience doesn't smile. In fact, they're not even blinking. Karoline doesn't react. She just stares forward. Eyes still locked on the middle of the crowd, her hands folded calmly on the table. No gloating, no twitch of satisfaction, just stillness. That unnerves him, more than any outburst could have. He glances at the moderator for rescue, but none comes. The host looks lost in her own outline, fumbling the next question card like it suddenly turned to a language she can't read. Offstage, a producer silently mouths, "Cut it short." The moderator tries to reset the tone. All right, let's bring this segment back to... But the damage has already been done. Live tweets are exploding in real time. Did Karoline Leavitt just END Kash Patel on live TV? No way he walks away from this unscathed. She didn't raise her voice. One sand still shook the room. A panelist seated 2 chairs away from Patel glances sideways. Mouths 2 quiet words caught by the lip readers of the internet. Holy *T. Patel tries one final line, something about unity and political maturity, but it trails into half sentences. Words collapse before they reach punctuation. The illusion of control is gone. He knows it. Everyone knows it. Karoline remains composed. She doesn't look at him, doesn't follow up, doesn't strike again, because she doesn't have to. The moderator exhales sharply. We're going to end a little early today. I want to thank both of our guests for their participation. It's the softest version of retreat television. Allows as cameras begin to pull back and the set dims slightly. One thing becomes clear. This wasn't the story anyone expected. No flashy edits, no dramatic music, just a single steady camera that didn't blink when the truth walked in. The clip hits Twitter before the credits even finish rolling. A 59-second cut, no filters. No commentary, just Karoline Leavitt's voice, calm and precise, landing the final line. At least I've never sold my readiness to the highest bidder. By midnight, it's on every major political account. Verified journalists repost it with fire emojis and stunned captions. Activists clip it into Instagram Reels. Reddit threads explode with frame-by-frame breakdowns. TikTok overlays the moment with slow motion and background music, but the original is what everyone shares because no editing was necessary. The moment already played like a script no one could write. Within 2 hours, national news anchors are playing the clip on repeat. On one channel, a conservative pundit stammers through a defense of Patel, then cuts himself off mid-sentence as the anchor leans forward and says, "But did he deny the contracts? Did he refute the classified briefings leak?" He doesn't, eh? Progressive panelist on another network declares, "I didn't think Leavitt had that in her. I thought she was just a sharp communicator." But this was prosecutorial. A former federal ethics officer tweets a damning analysis of Patel's firm threaded, cited, and time-stamped by sunrise. Hashtags trend across platforms. Hashtag Leavittline. Hashtag 1 minute. That changed everything. Hashtag Kash collapsed. Karoline's single quotes as campaign staff is caught off guard, not by the moment itself, but by the velocity of the aftermath. Her communications director calls at 1:23 a.m. Voice shaky. "We need to be careful. The clip's gone nuclear." Her digital director replies, "No. Let it burn. We said what we said." Karoline herself is already awake. Not because of the buzz, but because she never went to sleep. She sits on the floor of her apartment living room, laptop open, a mug of untouched tea beside her. Emails flood her inbox, reporters, constituents, donors, old professors, even rivals. But one subject line repeats over and over again. You didn't just win. You revealed. Meanwhile, on Patel's side of the aisle, things fracture quickly. His press team releases a one-line statement. Mr. Patel disputes the characterization of his record and will respond in due course. Due course never comes. By morning, a scheduled CNN appearance is quietly canceled. A longtime aide removes all affiliation with him on LinkedIn. Former staffers surface with cryptic posts. Some of us knew. We just never thought it would come from her. Think pieces arrive like clockwork. Titles flood the digital space. The moment Karoline Leavitt became a serious contender, political theater or policy reckoning. Why one sentence dismantled? Kash Patel's narrative, but no headline, lands harder than the one that hits the morning papers. The 1 minute that changed everything. The applause is gone. The stage lights are off. The panel table sits empty now. 3 microphones, a stack of unused cue cards, and 1 glass of water left untouched. slowly gathering condensation under the fluorescence. Backstage, in the green room where it all began, the air is thinner, less charged, but not less tense. Karoline Leavitt sits alone, cross-legged on the edge of the same gray chair. No staffers, no cameras. Just silence and the persistent vibration of her phone against the table. She exhales long, slow, like something that tip-tate had been held for far too long was finally allowed to leave her body. For the first time in hours, her fingers tremble, not with fear. With release, the folder still sits closed in her lap, but now it's just paper. The weight is gone not because the content changed, but because she used it. She said what needed to be said, and now she lives in the wake of it. Her phone buzzes again and again. She picks it up. The notifications flood in like a tidal wave: texts, missed calls, emails, tagged posts, screenshots. The algorithms have locked onto her name. Journalists, friends, former interns, high school classmates. Praise and panic. Support and scorn. One message reads, "You destroyed a man's career in 60 seconds. That's not politics, that's war." Another, "Thank you for finally saying what so many of us have whispered in rooms that weren't safe." And another, colder, "Be careful, they'll come for you now." She doesn't respond to any of them. Instead, she scrolls. Past the noise, past the anger, past the shock, until she sees it. One message from a name she hasn't seen in years. Judith Reese, her old mentor from when she interned in a congressional office as a teenager. The woman who told her to always carry one line in her pocket, not for attack, not for applause, but for truth. Karoline opens the message. Tonight wasn't about ambition. It wasn't about winning the segment. You didn't come to win applause. You came to speak truth, and you did. The room felt it. And so did the country. For a moment, her eyes sting not from tears. Exactly, but from recognition that someone saw it, not the performance. The intention. She presses the phone to her chest for just a second, closes her eyes. The noise outside continues. The press, the spin, the blowback, the memes, but for this moment, there is only peace. She smiles, not wide, not proud, just a small, quiet smile, a tired one. One that knows what truth feels like when it finally comes through, even if it cost you everything to say it. It wasn't a win, it wasn't a takedown, it was a reveal. And it mattered because in a world of spectacle and surface, someone remembered to speak substance. And the room, whether it liked her or not, listened. She picks up the folder again, now almost like muscle memory, and stands. The door to the hallway cracks open. Voices echo from the end of the corridor. Staffers press. Security. But Karoline doesn't move yet. She takes one last breath and walks into the new world her words created. If this moment made you think deeper about truth in politics, about the cost of courage, and the silence that follows a real reckoning, subscribe to the channel and comment below. Was this the most powerful moment you've seen in a political debate? We'd love to hear what it meant to you.